Ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves because Netflix has entered and is ready to place a bid. What's going on, everybody? Hit that subscribe and let's get into it. All right. Make sure to pre order Rebel Defenders. My first comic book is dropping very soon in a few days. Go out and show your support. Make sure to go out and get it. Look, let's check this out. So, the source is discussing film. This is on Twitter, also known as X. Look, let's get to the point with this. Netflix is reportedly considering placing a bid to buy Warner Brothers. Look, all of this that's starting to come out and we're starting to see left and right is causing a lot of noise in the industry. People are looking, people are interested, and most of all, shareholders are starting to see because, of course, they want to make money, and this is all about money and all that good stuff. Now, I'm going to talk and discuss about a few options, the good and the bad of what all of this can mean, because I've been reading a lot of comments and just seeing what people are saying, and just gather some information and things like that. So this one's going to be good, and we have to break things down because we have to see the good, of course, but we also have to see the bad to everything, and we have to balance out and see which is the best option. Now, with this being said, we know that Netflix is interested, and this is not overnight. This has been already going for a while. That's why we have that, whole trending that people tend to use. I don't really like to use it just because, but the whole thing of, sell Zack Snyder's Justice League to Netflix and all that good stuff, I don't oppose it. I do say that we need new leadership at Warner Brothers. And with the way that WB is doing right now, with David Zaslav, how they're doing for the past few years, that instead of them making money, they're pretty much losing money and they can't afford to stay in business at the rate that they're going. So we've been hearing rumors, and of course, we've been seeing this whole thing with the merger of Paramount with Skydance. And we know that they acquired it for $8 billion. And in the mix, we already know that Comcast is going to be coming into play starting January 2026 with HBO Max, and they want to just focus on that and stuff like that. And of course, we want Netflix to acquire WB because, of course, we want the Snyderverse to get restored and all the goodness that comes with it. So we're going to break it down and let's really look into a few details. All right. Look, first things first, we know that Comcast is coming into play in 2026. They're only going to be focusing on HBO Max and their streaming service. What can be cooking from there? We do not know. But let's look at the positive, because let's say, low key, Comcast that owns Universal, let's not forget Christopher Nolan is at Universal. And Christopher Nolan was the one that appointed and brought in Zack Snyder, and we got Man of Steel and the beginning of the DCEU. Fast tracking, moving everything to what we have now, Zack Snyder's Justice League. And of course, what, things are pending and still up in the air that didn't happen just because the studio, WB themselves, they canceled a lot of things and they just wanted to reboot and all that stuff. But let's look at the positive, all right? Let's do say that Comcast acquires Warner Brothers. What can come from it? A lot of good things. Because if they're going to be doing, all of these movies that they already have, plus what WB already currently has with their IPs, look, the positive is that with Comcast, there's theatrical releases. We'll be able to get movies in the theaters and, go out there and experience it, regular IMAX, 3D, all that good stuff. So that's a plus. What else? Comcast with Universal loves to put out physical media. So we'll be able to get all this content on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever it is, 4K, all that goodness. So that's a good thing. What's the downfall? That currently Comcast doesn't have a streaming service, but that doesn't stop them, because if they're going to be working with HBO Max, we can get exclusive content on there. What's to come from there? There's so much that we can get. Can the Snyderverse still get restored on HBO Max? Of course. And a lot of good things can come from that, along with all the IPs that they currently have besides DC. There's so much that can happen and come from that. Now let's look at Paramount and Skydance. Let's look at the good and we'll see, let's outweigh the options. Because of course, with them, Paramount Skydance, there's theatrical releases. We'll be getting these movies again in theaters to experience it, all that goodness. We'll get physical media because they love to put out physical media. And that's a plus. Who doesn't want to add these movies to their collection? That's a very good thing. They also have Paramount Plus, which is their streaming service. That's another bonus on top of theatrical releases. So there we have 3 wins. And what else? It's rare that Paramount Plus tends to upcharge on their streaming service. They do it once in a while, but it's not like you see with other streaming services that they're constantly always jacking up the price. And that's a plus. I'm seeing more positive than negative when it comes to this one with Paramount Skydance. Now let's focus on what brings us for today's topic, Netflix. Good old Netflix. Don't we love them? But at the same time, we can't stand them. And we'll see why. Because when it comes down to it, Netflix is not about releasing theatrical releases. That's a bad thing because we want to go out there and enjoy it and stuff like that. Netflix is mainly focused on streaming. So they're only a streaming service. That's it. And then with the streaming service, they're constantly raising the prices on their streaming service. And that affects and it hurts because it's like, oh man, you just jacked up the price not long ago and now you're going to do it again. You get what I'm saying? So they're constantly raising and increasing the prices because of course we already know the greedy corporations, how they run and how it works. And then the most important one is that there's no physical media with Netflix. We know that when Netflix started years ago, they were all about physical media and you would rent it, return it, get the next one, all that good stuff. Times have changed. As we get more into the future, things are changing constantly. Everything is entering that digital world, if you want to say, and everything is going into streaming. And of course, Netflix comes into play. So we won't be getting physical media. It's very rare that they put out something, but for the most part, they only want to have content on their streaming service. So I see that that's kind of not a good thing just because it'll be limited to that aspect. But at the same time, let's look at the positive. We see that Zack Snyder has a good relationship with Netflix. We have Rebel Moon, Army of the Dead. We have all these shows and things that he's working on. And at the same time, even Zack Snyder has come out and said that if Netflix was to acquire, the rights and all that stuff to DC, then yeah, he'll come back and they could do a lot more stuff like that. So that's a big plus, but as a fan, I look at it and I'm like, do I really just want it to be streaming? I mean, it's a 50-50. Yes, I would love theatrical releases, but if that's what it brings, then I guess so be it, as long as we're eating and getting the content that we've been fighting for and asking for related with the Snyderverse and also with David Ayer's Suicide Squad, also known as the Ayer Cut. I mean, there's so much possibilities, and at the same time, this bidding war is about to intensify and things are about to get very interesting and juicier than what they are right now. Because here you have 3 big giant corporations, Comcast, Paramount, Skydance, and Netflix. They have the money. They don't have the debt like WB, and they can go ahead and buy WB, and they could do so many things with it. They're hungry. They want those IPs, especially the DC brands, because of course that's going to bring them in even more money. So their return on investment is just going to triple, and it's going to bring them even more money than what they're bringing. In the end, I'm good with either or, but let the best company win when it comes down to the bidding, because it's all about the money, and David Zaslav is only going to accept the highest bid. We are going to see what's going to happen, but at the same time, in the end, we will find out who's the one that's going to acquire them, because it's already proven and it's already been out there that yeah, David Zaslav wants to sell Warner Brothers. He's probably tired. Dude just wants to retire and say, you know what, let me enjoy whatever's left and have fun with it. Go for it. It's time for new leadership at Warner Brothers. What are your thoughts? Hit that subscribe, and until next time.